Hello and welcome to this Football Manager 2018 Tactics Guide. This guide will be divided into three parts, where the first part will take a look at what to do when you just have taken control of a new club. How will you find your formation? How can you use squad depth to find your team's strengths and weaknesses, and so on. The second part will focus on how to prepare for match day, getting scouting reports about your next opponent, getting tactical advices from your assistant manager. How do you change your tactics and formation based on that information to counter your opponent's strengths and maybe try to exploit their weaknesses? And of course, we're going to take a look at the new tactical briefing, which is a new function in Football Manager 18. And the third and final part will focus on match day. How do you coach your team through the match? Doing team talks, changing your tactics and formation on the fly to respond to things that happens on the pitch, using the analysis feature to understand what's going wrong on the pitch, and how you can try to counter those problems with things like individual instructions, and of course to handle your subs. And this guide is for beginners and people who might have come back to FM after a long break from the game, and people who might have been doing great in previous versions of the game but are struggling a bit with FM18. If you're already an expert on tactics and things are going great for you in the game, then probably this guide is not for you, but feel free to watch it anyways and share your knowledge in the comments. Let us know all the things that you know that maybe I missed in this guide, or things that you disagree with, because I mean, the FM community is great, so let's help each other. And I know with all the three parts, this will be a very long guide, and that's not for everybody. And I'm okay with that, since I feel personally that anything shorter than this would be a really sloppy job trying to show the incredible amount of tactical features in FM18. And I'd rather have a guide that's a bit too long for some people than a guide that I feel like doesn't do the job, or just like skipping things. Who am I to give you advices when it comes to these things? Well, I've been playing the manager games for about 20 years, and that means I probably have played these games so much that it shouldn't even be mentioned out loud how much I play these games, because that's embarrassing numbers that I probably shouldn't be speaking high of. But I got the FM18 beta ASAP as it was released, and I've spent about 150 hours during the beta playing 2 different saves in different nations, different types of clubs. Done a lot of experimenting, but also been a part of the FM community. And the FM community during the whole beta has been talking a lot about tactics, because quite a few people were struggling when the beta got released. Things that they have done in previous versions wasn't working as well. And in streams and on forums, there were a lot of discussions, and I was a part of them. So I shouldn't take all the credit. I definitely learned from other people, and I tried to basically put together a little something what I learned, both based on my experience from previous versions and from the beta and the FM community discussions. And also, this guide should be seen as an introduction. It won't be an in-depth guide for those of you who are already experts, but hopefully for those of you who are new to the game, or maybe need to freshen things up, or maybe need to just find like different ways to look at problems, hopefully this guide can give you some interesting abilities and things you can use to improve your teams and your saves on the tactical side. But yeah, the first thing I do when I started a new save is I click this one, the team report. And the team report has a special view called squad depth. And this one is a brilliant thing when you want to start analyze your team and look at what strengths and weaknesses your team currently have. And of course, if you're a manager of a team that you know really well in real life, maybe you're not going to need this, because you're going to know every single player by heart already from the beginning. But for most people, this is a very good tool. And when I start this, we see a classic 4-4-2 formation. And you see a lot of player names, and you see star ratings. And what we are interested in here is star rating for different roles and position. And star rating is nothing, you shouldn't take like star rating as your guiding thing that, oh, this is written in stone. because star rating doesn't tell you everything about the player, but it's definitely going to give you a good hint of your team's strengths and weaknesses. And you can of course change the formation around here, try different formations. But what I usually do is I go to this one and select the position overview. If I do that, I'll get at least every single normal position. And we don't see any names anymore. We don't see any stars anymore. Instead, we see a ranking from poor to great. And then I can see pretty easy, like for example here, taking a look at my team when it comes to central defenders. I have 2 central defenders and 4 good ones. I'm definitely a team that's in a very good position when it comes to central defenders. But at the same time, when I look at fullbacks, I have 2 that's good on the left side, I have 3 that's good on the right side, but I don't have a single great one. And same with strikers, like I don't have a single great one, I have 2 good ones, an average one. And this one could give you a pretty good idea of maybe what sort of formation you should be using for your team. And a big mistake a lot of people do when it comes to the formation is that they go into Football Manager and they have a formation in their head like, oh, I'm going to be playing this formation, and then they try to force the players into that formation. And that could be very good if you have players that are actually suited for that formation, but it could also like end with a catastrophe if you have players that are nowhere near suitable for the formation that you have. Like for example, let's say, oh, I'm going to be playing with 3 strikers. That's probably a very bad idea if I don't even have a single great one and I only have 2 good ones and 1 average. Because this will mean basically I will be playing with 2 good strikers, 1 average strikers, but I wanted to have a striker on the bench even to sub if any of these gets tired or injured. But if I would have had, like, let's say I had 2 or 3 great strikers and maybe 1 or 2 good one and 1 average, well, maybe then I could start considering playing with 3 strikers. And after you have picked this view, you can actually go back and select all current, and then you will have all positions already selected here, which means you see everything with the stars, with the names, and so on. And considering my strengths, I definitely are strong in the defense department. I also have a very good goalkeeper, and I have pretty good attacking wingers or inside forwards. So I would probably just play 1 striker because I don't have that fantastic deal on the striking apartment. I will probably play with wingers because I'm very strong there. Probably not going to use a central attacking midfielder because I have players that are okay in this position, but I have nobody that's fantastic in it, and so on. And based on that, you build a formation around your strengths, the players you have. You don't try to force your players into a formation that doesn't suit them. And one thing that's worth thinking about when it comes to this is that you could, of course, strengthen your team. You could use your finances, try to sign players. And if you're in a smaller club, loaning players could be a good option. But usually, if you have that fantastic formation that you aim to use in the future, be prepared to give it 1, 2, maybe 3 seasons before your team are ready for it. If you don't have like a gazillion bucks and can replace your whole team during the first summer, have it as a long-time goal. Like, yeah, like I'm going to work for it. In a few seasons, hopefully I will be there. And the next thing I do after this is that I go to the tactics screen. And in the tactics screen, you can just ask the assistant manager to get, like, he sets up a tactic for us. But remember, from what we just learned from the squad death thing, is that this is probably not a good formation for us. Because we didn't have any great central attacking midfielder. We didn't have any great striker. So most likely something like this would be a better option for us. But what I usually do is I use the filters here, and I take a look at 1 part of my team at a time. And what I usually do the first time is every player I have in my team with a current ability of more than 3 stars. And that's just a number. That's how I go. You can definitely find your own way. I put them into the pitch, and I put them in their best position, even if we already, like, for example, let's say I'm planning to play with 1 striker, but I have 2 really good strikers. I would have put them both up there just to get a view for myself where our strengths is and where our weaknesses, because this will pretty clearly tell you what spots you need to strengthen. But then I go through the team like this, put all my best players, as I said, like kind of 3-star plus players. And for example here, as you can see, I have 3 central defenders that have that rating. So I'm going to put up 3 central defenders here. Most likely won't use a formation like this, but this is just for me to see like where do we need to strengthen our team. And of course the limit, as I said, you have to set up your own limit. I'm going for 3+, like 3.5 or higher, but you might go for 3 and so on depending on what you're after and what your aims are. And the view I'm looking at here is a customized one. You can create custom views. There's a lot of built-in ones that you are probably looking at right now if you don't have a custom view. And if you look at those built-in ones, you can find most of the information you might need to make this choice. I mean, under reports, you can see current ability and so on. But I'm using my custom one right here. Or maybe this one. I have a few options. But as you put out your players on the pitch, and you put out all the strongest one, pretty soon, actually remember that some players could play in different positions. Now you can go to that player, and if you go to report, it usually shows you where he's his best position. So this one is actually maybe even a defensive midfielder. So let's put him down to that position, because I think that's his strongest one. And yeah, put the guys in the right position. And of course we do the same with the strikers, but yeah, I have one striker actually that was decent. Like that. And after doing this, I can see that considering where my strongest players are, I will probably use a formation that's something like this. Because then I take advantage of every position where I have strong players. And that means, this clearly tells me, I might need new fullbacks. I might need another midfielder. And then, of course, for the longer runs, you might need backup players also, because your player is going to get injured. They're going to need a rest and so on. And then you can go on, take a look at your, like, for example, this guy is only 3-star potential but or current ability, but he's still young, so he can improve. Same with this guy, he can improve. So there might be a few of your players that even if they don't have high enough stats right now, they might get them pretty soon if they get to play and keep them developing. So try to find the right guys. Maybe you need to sign a player or two. Maybe you need to loan a player or two. Depends on your finances and what you can get. The next step is when you have filled up your complete team, when you have players in every position, you need to find individual instructions for them. First off, what roles are they going to have? The easy start is probably pick each player their best role. That's usually a good way to start this one out. And after you have picked their best roles, then you can start thinking about, is this balanced? Is this what I need? Or should I change something around? Because even if the players are in their best roles, that might not be the best for your team. Say, for example, you have 3 fantastic players that are all fantastic as advanced playmakers. But then you might think, well, yeah, it's great to have a lot of fantastic advanced playmakers, but it might not be great for my team to play with 3 playmakers at the same time. That might be too much. And then you need to start thinking, like, maybe could this guy be something else than a playmaker? Could he be a Masala? Could it be a ball winner? And things like that. And if you're uncertain about these roles, as you can see, when I hover over different roles, you get a description down here. So make sure to read this description if you are uncertain about what different roles does. So first thing, put them in their strongest role, and then start thinking about the balance of the team. Thinking, is this reasonable? Is this a good choice or not? I mean, for example here, look at both my central defenders. Their best role is ball playing defender focusing on defense. Ball playing defender focusing on defense. Is this a good option
to have two central defenders focusing on the exact same thing. It might be, it might be not. You could try that, play for a few games, see how do your central defenders work, and then you might realize, well, it would be better at least if one of the guys were a stopper instead, and start experimenting, like, do I get better or worse results? Like, even if this is not his best role, maybe this combination will work better than having two players playing the exact same role. And when we are talking about this, remember that players can be retrained. So for example, I would prefer him to play as a stopper instead. When you go to a player which visits his page, you can go to development and choose training, and then you will see that your player is focusing on a specific role in his training, and if you click that role, it's usually like, oh, he's a central defender, focus on that as default. But if you actually go to central defender, you can see that there are like different options for some of the roles. So in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, you can start changing around the role. And for example, maybe you want him to focus, instead of being a ball playing defender, maybe it's going to be a central defender or a defensive center back. And you can even go to additional focus if you want him to focus on a special ability. But that's definitely something to be used. For example, in my team, we have Sosa here that's fantastic in this role, but we kind of don't have anybody else that can play here very well. And I might think like, well, one option could be this guy, because he can play in this position. I mean, he can be an attacking midfielder on the right side, but as we can see here, it's definitely not one of his strongest side. So maybe like if I'm not going to use it, because his strongest side is in the middle over here. But if I'm not going to play with anybody there, then maybe I want to retrain him, tell him like, okay, let's have him focus on becoming actually attacking midfielder for the left side, and maybe I want him to act as an inside forward. And then hopefully if training works, he will be more and more familiar with that role and going to be able to do it better and better. And another thing I want to mention when we are doing this is, and this is a new feature in FM18. Take a look at the pitch here. The pitch have different colors, and those colors are trying to tell us what areas of the pitch are we covering in a good way. And as you can see now, when I removed everybody here from the right side, it become like dark orange, almost brownish color in a lot of these squares. And this is a very good tool to analyze, like to find maybe weaknesses in your team. Is there any things that your opponent could exploit? So in some way, you would try to get everything on the pitch as green as possible. But it needs to be taken with a grain of salt at the same time, because, I mean, sometimes you on purpose give up certain areas and you're okay with it. For example, let's say I would really focus on the central parts of the team, then maybe this would be okay, because I'm okay with the opponent having the ball here, because I don't feel like this is not a threat to us. It's not a threat that they can have the ball here with like a fullback and just chill there. And I might be completely okay with it, and it might work with my formation. But if it did like something like this could probably be a lot more dangerous, because here they can actually create a threat against us. So these squares are very interesting. In the beginning, you might want to try to get them as green as possible, and when you've done that, maybe you can start experimenting with changing things around, so you are leaving like different spots a little bit less covered, and maybe it's going to work great for you. Next up, you need to take a look over here, and this is a great thing, because what team does only have one tactic? No, you can have more. And in this game, it allows you to save 3 different tactics. And a good basic idea for this I would usually use, or tell a beginner to use, is your first tactic and your second tactic could be like this. When you play at home or against easier opponents, you're probably going to want to use more like attacking side formation. While you play away against very tough opponents, you probably want to have a bit more defensive-minded formations. So let's say, for example, we might be like a little bit of a weaker team. Then maybe this will be our formation we use against stronger teams and away games and things like that. And then we are going to create a new one here, and actually just going to copy the one. I'll bring out the last one. Maybe this one will be our more balanced one. So we're going to use this one when we are up against some really rough opponents. This might be our default one for like when we are going to try a little bit more attacking. And then we might use this one as when we are 1 goal behind. We need to try to really go out attacking, try to turn things around, things like that. But I would recommend use one formation that you use at home against a weaker team, use one formation that you use away or against stronger teams, and then you can use the third choice to whatever. You can use it to experiment and change things around like week for week. You can use it as your crazy all-out. Maybe you're going to have a crazy all-out attacking formation for whenever you are behind and it's 10 minutes left of the game. Or maybe the other way around, you're going to roll Mourinho style and have that park the bus formation that you use whenever there's like 10 minutes left of the game and you have a 1 goal lead and you really want to try to park the bus. Maybe that's going to be the case. There's a lot of options here, and experiment with it, because there's no right answer. Some of you guys will probably tune into this video hoping me to tell you use this formation and you will win every game. There's nothing like that in Football Manager 18, and you need to experiment. You need to try different things. Usually for me, when I start a new save, almost the whole first season is me experimenting with different tactics and different formations and different instructions. So be prepared to do that. Don't think you can just go out and everything is done and you're going to win easy. Because, I mean, if you're playing like Real Madrid, well, maybe that's the case. But in most times, you're going to have to do a lot of experimenting with the tactics. And next thing with the tactics is the mentality. And different mentalities is mostly like by just reading the name, you will understand kind of what it does. But as always in Football Manager, you also have an text here that will tell you more in depth what different formation or not different mentalities do. Because a lot of those mentalities, they come with advantages, but they also come with weaknesses. So you need to understand like what's actually going to happen. If I use control, what's the strengths of control, but also what's the weaknesses. And if this is my more like attacking formation against the weaker opponents playing at home, well, maybe I'm going to have an attacking mentality. And if this is the one that I use against a bit tougher opponents or for away games, maybe this is going to be my counter-attack mentality, because I know that the other team will dominate and we will try to counter-attack. And same with mentalities, try to experiment with them a lot. During the first season, change it around, try how different mentalities affects your team. And next thing is the team shape. And structured versus flexible versus fluid. And same as with the mentalities, just the names tell you a lot about what these things is going to do, but read through the descriptions to really try to understand them. And same as with the mentalities, try them out. Use, like for this, my attacking one, maybe I want it more fluid. For my counter-attack one, maybe we want it more structured, because the guys really need to be in the right place, doing the right thing if you are going to be able to counter-attack. But maybe fluid is better for counter-attacking, because you want your players to actually just like be able to quickly change around and do different stuff. But you need to try it, you need to experiment with it, see what happens. And the last thing is the team instructions here. And this window, I mean, if you have ever played football yourself, or if you watch a lot of football on the telly, and I'm betting if you are playing Football Manager, either you have played a lot of football yourself, or you have watched a lot of football on the telly, or even probably done both, you will understand what all these things does. I mean, are you going to play very narrow? Are you going to play very wide and so on? With a high tempo, with a low tempo? Are you going to go Klopp style, closing down like crazy? Are you going to do it very little? Are you going to have a high or low defensive line? Are you going to try to prevent opponents for short goalkeeping distribution? Are you going to use tighter marking? Are you going to try to get stuck in with the tackles? Maybe risk a yellow card or two, but really try to punish the opponents. Or maybe you're struggling, your players are getting sent off and things like that, so you want them to stay on feet and actually take it a little bit easier with tackles. Are you going to try to play out of defense, or do you have some really talented, skilled central defenders that can actually pass the ball? Or you're playing like a Sunday League team, and you know that if you try to play out of defense, that means you are definitely going to go screw up. Maybe you want to go with classic style, pump it into the box, and so on. I mean, these things, they make sense. Try to pass it into space. You want to retain possession, maybe go more direct passes. I mean, if you're going to go counter-attacking, we could probably not try to focus on retaining possession. We're probably going to try to speed things up. And of course, be more expressive, be more disciplined. If you have guys that are fantastic on like long shots and so on, maybe you want them to shoot on sight. But if you find yourself missing a gazillion of shots, maybe instead you should work it into the box. Are you players are going to go for the overlap or maybe the underlap? Are you going to try to hit early crosses? Might be a thing if you have like midfielders or fullbacks that are really good at crossing. Maybe you even want to put those early crosses, especially if you have a long, strong target player up on top. So many options. But yeah, I think you can understand all of these things. The great thing with it though is this is saved for different formations. So if I'm happy with this one and then I change over to this one, you will see this one is completely empty. And we can set up other instructions for this one. And they will keep them. But same as other things, you are definitely going to, if you are a serious football manager, you are going to want to do a lot of experimenting with these instructions. You definitely do. And yeah, basically I said before, my first season in every new save is me changing things around here all the time, trying out different things, trying to see how they work. And one last thing when it comes to the players, these instructions is for the whole team, but you can also set up individual instructions, and you definitely want to take a look at them. For example, your goalkeeper. Is he kicking it all the way? Is he trying to throw it out, roll it out maybe to these guys? Let's say you're playing a very defensive formation here, and you also are like the opponents have an attacking corner, so all your guys maybe be down here on the pitch. Maybe all your players are back here defending on the corner, and then your goalkeeper just grabs the corner and it kicks it up here to nobody, and it just ASAP comes into the opponent's possession. And things like that. You could try to take a look at individual instructions. If you click a player, you can add instructions, and maybe you want your goalkeeper to try to always roll it out, or throw it long, or take short kicks. I mean, long kicks could definitely be an option if you're trying to counter-attack. You want to just put it up ASAP. And maybe this is not that interesting with a goalkeeper, because probably he won't be doing much tackles, but this could be very interesting. And this I would recommend when it comes to your defenders. Try to experimenting with tackle settings. Because mark tighter is an option for them. Tackle harder. Definitely, like if you look at your defenses and it's not working, things like this is things you should experimenting with and see what effects it has on your players. One thing I or pretty often do with my defenders is I usually use tackle harder. But if they pick up a yellow card, I usually change it around to ease off tackles to just not risk them getting sent off. But experimenting with these things. And of course, if you have a really good technical player, dribble often. If you have a shitty clumsy player, dribble less. If you have a player that's fantastic at long shots, you definitely want him to shoot more often. Or if you have a player that's really crappy with long shots, you want him to shoot less often. So many options here. But I think, as always, you can experiment on your own. And also, if you have your mouse, if you hover over one of those options, you get a little window trying to explain what that option does. And I think that's it for individual instructions. There are a few more things you can set up. First off, set pieces. And you can sort it. So let's say, hey, here's my corners. Who will take the corners? Well, I'm probably going to put my guys that are strongest on corner taking. And as you can see, there's a difference if the corner is from the left side and right side. So you might want to think about like what is he left-footed or right-footed and so on. That could affect your choice. Same with the free kicks, left side, right side. and how like if he left-footed, is he right-footed? And as you can see here, it says direct. Direct means usually it's a free kick when they are going to try to take a shot, try to score. But you could go for, like, let's say it's an indirect free kick where they're probably just going to try to get it into the box and somebody maybe go up for a header or something like that. That could completely change around who you want to take it. Because maybe you have somebody that is really good on scoring, but if it's going to be like a cross into the box, maybe you want that guy to actually be in the box scoring because he's really good at heading or things like that. So a lot of things to think about there. And it's also a settings for penalties. Who will take your penalties? And other than that, there is the last thing of this episode, or this part 1, is the match plan. You could set up match plans here. And this is basically automatic macros. And so if I click on create a new one, you can give it a name and so on. And you can also like think, is it going to be default? Is it going to be for the last game? I'm just going to use the default one, which is next game, and add a scenario. And for example, what you can use this for, let's say you are losing by 1 goal, then you can have your team to automatically change your formation among the formations you have saved, and change mentality. So maybe I'm trying like defensive maybe, but if we are behind, we're trying to go attacking. And what this means is, if we do it like this, whenever you are 1 goal down, the game will automatically change your settings to this. Myself, I don't use these settings very much because I usually try to be an active coach myself during the game. So I change these things around manually during the game. But if you want to set up the game to be as automatic as possible, and you can just lean back and enjoy whenever you're playing a game, you could set up these sorts of scenarios, these sorts of macros. Same, of course, like if you are 1 goal winning, maybe you want to try to park the bus, go to a more defensive formation. I think you understand what I mean here. So you can set up the game to do a lot of things automatically for you.
And that's it for the first part. The FM Tactics Guide continues in the second part, and you will find a link to it in the description below. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2.